Hey team, Richard Tubb here with another episode of Tubb Talk, the podcast for managed service providers. Now, one of the goals of this show is to shine a light on the cool new tools and platforms that are available to today's managed service providers. So today I've invited Sergio Farache, EVP of Strategy and Global Technology Business at TD SYNNEX, to discuss the StreamOne platform. Now, StreamOne is a cloud management platform that integrates with your MSP systems to assist you in expanding your cloud business. And as we're about to find out, there's a ton of potential here for MSPs in this platform, as Sergio will share with us. So, Sergio, welcome to Tubb Talk.
Richard, thank you. It's a pleasure to be with you today. Thank you for the
Good.
invitation.
My pleasure to have you on it. And we were just saying before we came on air, I'm at home in Newcastle upon Tyne in England, where it's about just above freezing, 1 degree Celsius. You're in slightly warmer climes at the opposite side of the world, aren't you?
Yeah, thank you. I'm enjoying. I am in Miami right now, 20 degrees here. Then you are welcome.
I'm very envious. I've got my cardigan on to stay warm, and you're in your t-shirt sweltering there. So just a little bit jealous. Okay, before we jump into StreamOne, tell us a little bit about yourself if you can. So what does your role as Chief Strategy and Technology Officer at TD SYNNEX, what's all that about? What does that entail?
Yeah, thank you. Basically, have five areas of responsibility. One of obviously the main one is to work with our CEO Patrick Summit to define our strategy and the priorities around our execution to guarantee success and bring value to our partners, vendors, and our stockholders. Then that is a big part of my work. And the strategy is always defined in the medium long term more than in the short term period. The second area is what we call the high growth technology segment. I am, in addition to the strategy, responsible for articulate our value proposition, but at the same time, the delivery of our areas like cloud, like security and data, AI across all our regions. In addition to that, a part of my team is responsible for what we call global vendor transformation. That is our engagement with one of the largest or more strategic vendors in the industry that we serve, and working with them more than in the day-to-day in how we initiate activities that support the transformation of the IT ecosystem as a whole in the context of the new technologies that they bring to the market. I am responsible for our division that is Datech, that is a division that is very focused on design software and the management and the distribution of that. And finally, StreamOne, that is the topic probably of today, that is our digital platform from the as a service motion. That is the things that I do.
So many cool things in there that I want to speak to you about. We'll try and narrow it down on StreamOne because that's something that's really piqued my interest. Before we do, though, I think most people recognize TD SYNNEX as a brand. But I guess for anybody who's unfamiliar with the company, how do you describe how TD SYNNEX helps MSPs?
Yeah, well, and this is an area where we have been investing and working for many years. But I think that the first thing that I will say is that a big mistake is assume that MSP is a category that you can define as equal, meaning not all MSPs are created in the same way and not all have the same needs. Then this is one of the things that we quickly learn, that we need to enable a capability and an offering that adapt depend of the needs and where the partner is at that moment. Because again, the maturity level, the evolution, the size is different. TD SYNNEX is basically the goal is make easier, faster, and more efficient to tackle the challenge as a trusted partner advisor from the MSP. And what we have is basically our program is purpose built for optimize operational efficiencies and accelerate business growth in the MSP segment. This includes a range of support, white label services that we offer to cover the gaps that they can have in the delivery of some of these capabilities, solutions mainly oriented to multi-product activation and training to help to streamline processes to provide cost-effective IT support and infrastructure management to the clients. We offer a range of services specifically designed for MSP that start with an edge to cloud portfolio. I think that is a misconception that you can serve MSPs only doing software. I think that that is a wrong approach, because in reality, our world is not only software, it's hardware, it's software, it's services. And an MSP needs support in all those areas. Then one thing that we put emphasis is to have the proper portfolio that fulfill all the needs of the MSPs in those categories. The second, and probably one of the more relevant elements, is partner strategic development and enablement. You know, it's a lot of things happening. It's a lot of changes, new technologies, and it's very costly for a company to adapt to all that. Then one of our main focuses was how we simplify that adoption cycle of technology, how we streamline the certification process, but not only from the technical product perspective. It's more about the competency of the people in the areas that you need, how you really understand about security, how you really understand cloud or data or AI. And we evolved that to a motion that we call Practice Builder. That is a more comprehensive approach that helps the MSP to build a practice. Because one thing is to know about security, and another thing is to be a practice around security. And that involves from the design, the strategy, conception, the go-to-market model, the operating model, and the technical capability. Then build a practice is a very complex process. We enable marketing support too. We have digital tooling that help the partners, not only with content, but at the same time with identify in their segment of customers what are the proper potential, the persona element, and we have been doing significant investments in that area. And of course, we have the traditional backend capability related to financial services, create solutions, facilitate transactions in a more simplistic way with financial terms. And we have a set of services capabilities that we don't offer direct to customers. We only offer through our MSPs in a white label motion, because there are so many areas that is very difficult that you have all covered. And we try to cover those gaps and provide those services on behalf of the MSP. And finally, of course, is StreamOne as the platform that support that motion from that perspective.
Yeah, there's so much, as I alluded to, so many different things we could talk about here. However, we've only got a short period of time together, so we'll focus on StreamOne. But I want to pick up on something you said that I think is really important and reflects what I'm hearing in the industry. The definition of managed service provider is changing. You know, you've covered a lot of ground there, a lot of different scope, and we get listeners to the show getting in touch with us and saying about, you know, I talk about what a managed service provider is, but it's covering a whole breadth nowadays. So it's fascinating to me to hear that TD SYNNEX are providing support and resources across the whole gamut there, across the whole breadth. So again, we could talk at length about that, but I want to focus today, the conversation, on StreamOne. So I gave a very high level overview of StreamOne as a cloud management platform, but tell us a little bit more. What is StreamOne and how does it help MSPs?
Yeah, let me start saying that StreamOne is much more than a marketplace, because I think that we need to understand that what StreamOne brings is what we call a platform of engagement. Is basically the ability to really bring that level of digital journey automation to the MSPs and partners to deliver to the end users. Then when we design this version of StreamOne, our perspective was to understand that it's a complete digital journey that you need to address from the perspective of onboarding, purchase, management, delivery, and fulfillment. And all those elements need to be served. But traditionally, distribution has been focusing on how I bring that value to the partner in my interaction with them or with MSP. But what we realized very quickly is that the real value is how we can enable the MSP to deliver that value to their end user. Then from initiation, we create a platform and not a marketplace. Marketplace is only one component of the platform. And we create all the elements across the digital journey that enable the partner to build those elements and serve to their customers in a digital end-to-end perspective. We are present today in more than 80 countries. The platform is completely multi-language, multi-currency. And the other significant element that we did was to introduce a concept that we call normalization. When you are an MSP and you begin to diversify, you have more than one cloud, more than one vendor. And what you confront is the fact that every vendor have a different operational process, transactional model, etc. Many platforms, what they do is basically replicate the vendor function into their platform to the partners. What we did was something different. We create a normalization model of how you transact software, how you transact a lifecycle management, how you manage infrastructure as a service. And with that normalization model, we attach all the vendors to that normalized structure. Then in the platform, independent if you are transacting with Microsoft, Amazon, Google, or whatever of these providers, for you is the same. It's a consistent process, it's a consistent flow, then it's easier to understand, manage, and deliver, not only for you, but enable that for your end user. Then again, StreamOne is basically that, is the automation of all the digital journey with extensivity to the end user and creating two major goals. One is driving significant operational efficiency, but enabling and accelerating growth from the perspective of the partner.
Yeah, another picking up on something you said there, another reason that I really wanted to get you on the show to talk about StreamOne is we've got a global audience for this podcast, and I hear back from some MSPs. In fact, I heard from an MSP in South America today, got in touch with me, and they say you feature a lot of cool technology on here, but it's not available in our part of the world. So I hope our conversation is showing that there is a lot of very cool tech available for MSPs globally. And kudos for TD SYNNEX and yourself for making that, multilingual, multi-currency, because it's a very difficult job, but I see far too many MSP vendors and MSP platforms who focus on, US dollars or euro or English language only. So for me, that's a really big deal.
Yeah, well, only to complement that, the other thing that is StreamOne Ion is that is a multi-tenant architecture. And what that means in terms of for all these countries, for all these MSPs across the world, is that what you will find is a lot of companies that go to market with platform, they talk about features, but then you see that the features that are available in US are different than the features that are available in UK and are different than the features that are available in other country. Then the beauty of the architecture that we build is the fact that any time that we release a feature, a capability, that is instantly available in a multi-tenant architecture in all the markets at the same time. Then the same capabilities that are available for an MSP in US are now available for an MSP in Malaysia or in Argentina. Then that is a significant change in the way that now we are helping in terms of bring the last technology and the last capability to everything and everybody across the market that we serve.
Yeah, I love that approach. Let me jump into a specific here. So we've got MSPs from all across the world here, but they also use a variety of different platforms, such as professional services automation, PSA. So can you give us an insight into which PSA platforms does StreamOne connect with?
Yeah, let me talk first about a generic concept of how we approach this. And the generic concept is that PSA, of course, is a critical element in the MSP life. But in addition to that, you need to understand that the platform needs to serve properly in three areas. One is basically the classic platform website delivery. The second is what we call commercial and white label aspect that we extend the capability to end users. And the third is headless commerce. Then in the headless commerce category, we introduce two elements. One is the concept of connectors. And inside the connectors is where you will see this topic related to MSPs and specifically about support. We have full support for ConnectWise as an example, or Datto Autotask as an example. And now we're integrating ServiceNow as part of the future release. Then we continue expanding in the connectors, and you will see more of these connectors coming to the table. The beauty of these connectors is that really provide a very easy way for the MSP to decide what services, what customers, what orders, what products they want to synchronize, enable the synchronization. But not only that, in addition to that, we generate a capability that is, I think, at least I am not aware that others have it, that is this billing reconciliation engine capability. Because some of the biggest challenge with all the connectors that are in the market is that, yes, they operate, but then they found that are inconsistencies in the process of how the data is crossed.
Right.
Then capture that at the beginning, because in some cases it's not a fault of the platform, it's a fault of the data, how the data is structured. But then we enable this billing reconciliation capability to simplify the life of the MSP. In addition to that, we have that is the second component of the headless commerce. We released probably one of the more comprehensive API stacks in terms of our system. Because the other thing that we understand is that we will not be able to cover all the connectors for all the platforms that are available. Then we need to provide a way for our MSPs to have full access to all the capabilities of the platform through APIs. And that is available, and we provide an element that is called Swagger, where the partner can see exactly the characteristics of every API. And in addition to that, he can test it, prove it before he produces the integration. Then I think that we are putting significant effort in the headless commerce space in a way that we serve either via connectors or API the needs of the MSPs.
Yeah, makes sense. So if I understand correctly, Lynn, so StreamOne can streamline and simplify purchasing, provisioning, management of cloud services for MSPs. And although the majority of listeners will be using perhaps Microsoft software as a service platforms, many others will be using Amazon Web Services, Google Workspace, and others. So does StreamOne support a variety of cloud platforms?
Yeah, that is the beauty of StreamOne, right? We used to say is where all the clouds meet.
Yeah.
And that is the intention, because we want to simplify again the life of that MSP. And if he need to deal with all these players, he need to go to multiple areas. That is very complex. But in StreamOne, you have it all. Not only that, you have it all, and at the same time, as we talked before, you have it all normalized, meaning the way that you interact, the way that you manage the provider, the way that you provision, the way that you build is exactly and consistent across the multiple players. And in addition to that, in terms of billing aspect, you can mix these providers, because in many cases in a customer, you will find some of them inside the same customer. Then how you unify billing and all that is part of the process. The other thing that we do a significant work is integrating the infrastructure as a service capability from the billing perspective, and that provide software as a service and infrastructure as a service combined in a billing single engine. Again, this is very powerful to streamline operations, and if you combine that with the white label capability to the end user, you drastically diminish the effort that you need to put behind it. One other call out that I want to say, and probably we will talk later about it, is that now we enable marketplace syndication. And what that means is that not only we are capable to bring these clouds that we talk, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, we have IBM, we have others too. But in addition to that, now many of these hyperscalers are creating their own marketplaces. Yeah. And in those marketplaces, they are onboarding more ISVs. Then what we are doing through marketplace syndication is, again, aggregating these ISVs in a common place that the MSP can be able to find it and transact with them.
I want to pick up on something that you said and delve a little bit deeper. So automated billing, that's a big draw. That's a big part of StreamOne, make life easier for the MSP. But Sergio, you must speak to hundreds of MSPs, thousands of MSPs every year from all over the globe. In your estimation, how much revenue is the typical MSP leaking or losing by still using, manual reconciliation, manual billing processes?
Yeah, we don't have an exact or precise number, but what we can tell you is that is coming to be very costly for a company that need to do this manually. Because in the past, a lot of this engagement were related to perpetual licensing. But now, and that was a transaction. I sell the transaction, I go out and I call you the next year. But now that changed drastically because now it's lifecycle management is subscription or consumption that is more intensive than subscription, by the way, because it's per second in some cases. Then you need to have an engine to offer that capability. What we see is that MSPs that use this type of platform have 2-3 times less churn from their customers. Then that translates in significant advantage from monetary perspective. But again, from cost reduction, this is a significant factor if you want to have a viable business in subscription or consumption.
I want to change tact a little bit. We already talked about the world of managed services. It's definitely changing, and the definition of what an MSP is changing. I put out to social media that we were going to have this conversation today and wanted to get some feedback from people. And one thing that somebody mentioned to me, we're seeing some MSPs provide their own online shop fronts and the facility for clients to go in and to actually order via portals and things. So what has your experience been in the shifts, seeing these shifts, the way the MSPs are offering their solutions to end users?
Yeah, as we talked before, we see a significant need in the market for digital transformation. And at the beginning, that was a very nice word at the enterprise layer, but that now has been going down now to all type of customers, right? And the MSPs are not an exception. They need to satisfy this intention from the end user. The end users now have this experience to buy digitally. You know, the millennials, the young people is coming to work, and they don't want to call you to change 2 seats in your Office subscription.
They don't want to speak to salespeople, do they?
Yeah, they don't want to do it. Then you need to provide that digital experience. And then again, as I told you before, that was one of the primary elements in the design of our platform, the ability to do what we call end-tier architecture, that you can bring all this capability no matter where you are in that engagement. Then the way that we are addressing this is in 2 ways. One is we are many partners that don't want to have the complexity to manage and to deal with the security and the development and the design to build a complete store around that. And for that, we create this concept of the white label marketplace that is available in the platform, where very easily you can set up your own store. You can define your own image. But not only that, you can transact all the products that are offered in the platform, but you can create your own products too. Then we enable the MSP to create their own products, their own services inside our platform, and expose that to the end users in a way that they can a full scope of capabilities related to how they can transact with the end user. But we recognize that there are some MSPs that have more customized needs too, and they are not necessarily completely satisfied relying on a third-party white label concept. They want to still develop because they think that they can introduce other value elements that make a difference for them. And that is where the API architecture that I mentioned before is another critical component. Because if you don't need or want our white label support, then we enable you with the APIs in a way that all the transactional provision, creation, border is managed still in the platform, but you do it through APIs, not through a white label interface.
Yeah, it sounds as though you've invested heavily in the API side of things to give that flexibility across the board. Yeah.
Yes.
Let's talk about lifecycle management for a moment. And lifecycle management, it's one of that, I wouldn't really call it a buzzword, but a phrase that people, it's like, what is it all about? Well, we know that MSPs, you've got to assist clients in choosing and implementing software as a service applications. Then you've got to monitor usage, as you talked about, then the cybersecurity, compliance, and eventually, of course, and I speak as a former MSP here, you've got to decommission any that are no longer needed. So that is lifecycle management in a sort of a nutshell. What, TD SYNNEX, what are you doing to help MSPs to manage this? Because it's a really complex long-term challenge.
Yeah, I think that we do several things, right? First, one of the, again, other this is why sometimes the principle, how you build a house matter. Because if you don't have the right foundations, the house will probably fail at the end.
Right.
And this is another area where we put a lot of emphasis and focus. And we have an engine inside the platform that basically ensure what we call synchronization with the hyperscalers. And what that means is one of the elements that we quickly realize in this topic of lifecycle management is that changes occur in the platform, but sometimes can occur outside of the platform. And nobody tells you that, right? And what happened is that in many platforms that are existing in the market, when that happens, you create an inconsistency. As an example, as you said, my inventory don't match with the inventory that is in the hyperscaler of my end user.
Yeah.
Then what we did was the opposite. We create an engine that every 30 minutes is synchronizing our platform with all the vendors. Then we practically in real time have exactly what happened, no matter if you did it in the partner portal or you did it in our platform. We only reconcile those elements for you, and we ensure that you have the last minute information. That is a significant value, and very few platforms can do it and provide it. The second element that we did was to implement this concept of, I don't know if you remember this methodology, but the FLAIR methodology: define, the land, adopt, expand, and review.
Yeah.
Renew, sorry. And that is something that is embedded in the process of the platform. And we enable to find, to deploy, to adopt, and to expand over the existing elements, and to provide the renewal notifications and all that in a way that we simplify the approach, and we give you the I would say the KPIs that are necessary to understand that process. And finally, we introduce at the same time this concept of deployments. That is not only the fact that you can buy a license, but that you can deploy a license as part of the architecture. And that, again, is with the intention to reduce the complexity that is behind that element. Then you can find the status of your license. You can update, downgrade, move seats, change processes, all in the platform. And you always have inventory in real time of your position, usage, and where you are across the model. Then with all these elements, we are still working in expanding more dashboard capabilities related to that. But I think that we are at the point where we offer a significant capability inside the platform.
Yeah, it blows my mind. Again, as a former MSP, these problems are long-standing within the industry. So some of the solutions that you're bringing to bear, really, really impressive. I want to talk about something else that's very big, gaining a lot of popularity amongst the managed service provider market, infrastructure as a service. It's a growth area for MSPs globally, but infrastructure as a service usage management can be choose my words carefully here, can be a real pain for MSPs to deal with. So have you got any advice, Sergio, on how MSPs can make this part of their lives a lot easier?
Well, again, other principle of design, right? That we bring to the table in StreamOne. We opt between two approaches, and the second approach, that is the approach that we take, is very hard, but at the end provide a lot of value. The first approach was what the majority of the platforms that are available in the market do today. That is basically at the end of the month, they download the information from the vendor and they present that information to you in a way that you consume an invoice. That's it.
Yeah.
That is an easy approach, but don't provide too much information for the user, neither for you during the month, during the day-to-day. And consumption is an activity that happens per second, per hour. Then what we decide to do is, our principle of design is that, yes, we reconcile with the data of the vendor, but we basically down to the level of usage per service. And we manage in our own billing engine all that process and coordination. With that, what we do is we are now capable to offer to MSPs close to real-time data in terms of what is happening in your instance. You can establish budgets at the same time to give you alerts if something is going wrong, because again, mining and other elements in security can be challenging if you don't have those capabilities. And you can do a lot of analysis in terms of trending and FinOps. And FinOps will be a space that we continue developing, and we have a practice that support MSPs on the FinOps side, because it's a lot of space in the FinOps practice to go to end users and optimize their consumption. And that changed the perception of you as a seller, more now as a trusted advisor that is taking care of the cost and reducing that cost from the perspective of the end user. Then I think that we now have a very unique capability inside the StreamOne Ion in terms of how we manage and how we show the usage at the level that, as an example, in the case of GCP of Google, we are capable to do things that Google itself don't do in terms of providing billing with a specific day set in the platform. Then I think there is a lot of capabilities here. And if the partner use those capabilities to show the customer and to enable that constant now exposure with the white label marketplace again to the end user now have access to that information in the same way, and that simplify again all those interactions.
Very interesting. And picking up on what you said about FinOps, financial operations, I know of IT service providers who are doing that as an entire almost project, going out to clients who have got multiple SaaS tools. They know they're probably overspending on what they're doing there, and they just bring savings to that client as well. That's another area, as we've said multiple times, what managed services is changing and it's growing, and it's fascinating to see. Well, let's continue talking about information for a minute, because obviously there's a lot of data that you collect here. There's a lot of data that is consumed. Can we talk about reporting for a moment? So MSPs, of course, they need a way to view the data about different clients very easily and quickly. So what does StreamOne's reporting capabilities look like?
Yeah, this is an area of great work and interest for us. And to be transparent, it's an area that we still believe that we have a lot of space to improve, and we are working very hard to continue improving in that area. But I will say that today we offer a tailored dashboard capability that reflect the more relevant data dimensions, and in addition to that, we provide customizable widgets. You have things like notifications on platform activities, quick links to most used pages, custom date range changes that you can put the data in the way that you want. We provide analytics at the individual account or consolidate aggregate levels. We provide view analytic of usage, as I mentioned before, spend by provider and trends associated with that. And we enable the management of spend budgets. And all this can be, again, we provide the ability that the partner select the fields that he want to put in his own report in a way that they can customize that information. And all that information can be accessed via APIs or can be exported via CSV format or PDF, depending on what you said. Then I think that from that perspective, we provide significant capabilities, but we want to make it simpler in the future. We are working in two areas for the future. One is, again, simplification with the use of AI, but in addition to that, with the use of questions, that you can make questions to get some information. And the other is, and the other layer of that is, we are trying to bring more capabilities related to general layers in a way that you can create properly allocation of use consumption or subscription in the general layer in the areas that you need. And that will be extendable to the users. Then the users can apply cost to cost centers in a way that they now can have significant value for the reporting internal perspective too.
You mentioned AI there. I'm surprised we've been talking for this long without mentioning artificial intelligence, because it's at the front of everybody's minds at the moment. So what does the TD SYNNEX approach to the new world of artificial intelligence look like? I'm very intrigued by what you just said there. So if I understand correctly, one of the capabilities you've already got is the ability for people to use natural language queries against some of the data that's in the system.
No, not yet.
Okay.
Not yet. That is something that we are in the process to bring to the market. And the reason why not yet, and I don't know if this will be a pretentious analogy, is probably a little the Apple case. Meaning bring this capability to a platform, to be honest, is not so complicated. But bring it in the right way, respecting all the data privacy concerns in Europe, as an example, that are extremely high, and ensuring that the data is protected and managed in the proper way, that we respect the terms and conditions, bring a set of challenges that we are now working very intensively in a way that we ensure that when the models operate in the way that the data is used is absolutely correct and proper to deliver that competency. The second element is that AI is a significant capability, and these generative models are very powerful, but you interact with language is not what really necessarily create too much value. Can reduce your time to get an answer, yes, and that is what we are doing. In fact, we have, and we are integrating that in our search from the perspective of searching products and the perspective of understanding documentation. But the real value is behind how we can engage and deliver more revenue for the MSP. And the way that we are approaching this is with something that is released in the first quarter of next year, that is something that we call our cognitive engine. And what the cognitive engine will enable is establish rules, business rules, and recommendations with predictive analytic models that enable significant capabilities in terms of upsell and cross-sell. That is where we are working and what is coming. And in addition to that, again, from the generative AI perspective, we want to release when we are sure that our compliance to the use of the data is perfect related to the regulations on the markets that we serve. And the fact that we are a global platform probably make it more difficult, because we need to ensure that the way that we treat your data is compliant with all the regulations across all the countries.
Yeah, and I appreciate your candor and honesty talking about, like, it's not that difficult to implement, but you've got to be aware of the implications of the implementation and what it's actually going to do there. So yeah, very interesting. I follow the channel news. I know you're in the process of announcing some new features for StreamOne. You've already talked about a lot of new stuff that's either been added or just about to be added. Can you talk to us about any of the other features perhaps that we've not already touched upon?
Yeah, again, we talk about some of them. I would say that probably a little more context. We are introducing again a new search capability in the platform that will enhance drastically the experience of the users in that perspective. The APIs that we talk about has been expanded. Then it's more capability related to that at the level that now with APIs you can create your own products, your own service, and use that as we discussed before. The marketplace indication that we discussed that enable now the importation of products from the hyperscaler capabilities. We do what I call limited release, because we are still testing from the perspective of ensure that the MSPs like what we are providing, what we call the security solutions dashboard. And this is not the first time that a platform from a distributor bring a dashboard for security. But what we realize is that give you a dashboard that only provide information don't necessarily change your life or make anything better.
Right.
What make you better is that if we provide you the information and you can take actions, meaning if I tell you that the posture of your customer is not in the best place, yes, it's good that you know that, but it's better if you can click a button and now improve that posture, right?
Yes.
That is the approach that we are taking. That is what we went out with a limited release. It's not only an information system, it's an activation system. Once we determine the posture of the customers, we enable the partner to take actions on that posture and change the settings in a way that the system permanently now, with the authorization of the end customer, of course, give us the ability to keep that posture in the right place or take actions. In addition, He brings you recommendation of products that can be used to solve the problems that are existing in that posture. Then it's a more, again, engagement and action system than only a reporting module. And the other thing that we are very soon introducing in January that is a capability related to price fluency. That is, will simplify how you manage all the architecture of prices in the system that is already available, but we will enhance that on one step.
Fantastic. I'm really glad you mentioned cybersecurity, because we'd be remiss, of course, if we didn't touch upon it a little bit deeper. Top concern for every MSP nowadays, I think, is cybersecurity. And the world of cybersecurity, of course, is getting more complex thanks to fraudulent cloud activities and the multitude of different platforms. You've already touched upon some of them, the multitude of different platforms that MSPs need to manage on behalf of their clients. So can you speak a little bit more to how TD SYNNEX see themselves helping MSPs with security operations? You've mentioned the dashboard.
Yeah, this is one of these activities, right? Ensure that you can not only monitor but take action across our platform. By the way, we don't intend to develop something that compete with the high SIEM systems. That is not our goal, but it's a lot of SMB customers that don't have the capability to invest in those high-end SIEM systems that needs this type of capability.
Agreed.
The other thing that we have is a significant security portfolio. Again, I think that this is something relevant because security is one of those areas that not one vendor have everything, and you need to have the ability to bring that to market. We invest in, as I told you before, in this topic of development certification, and now we have a tool that is Channel Academy that any MSP can join. And in Channel Academy, you have basically a complete certification path with badges that you get across you evolve that can prove to market that you have the competency after you go through that. We have the security practice builder that enable the creation of a practice of security inside your company. Then we help you to address that. We provide at the same time assessments that you can run as a white label assessment to your end user with the acceptance of the end user that give you a security posture in a more deep way, and then you can define what are the actions that you can take from that perspective. We have what we call a cyber range, where we have multi-million dollars of security equipment and vendors when we can test concepts, cyber hacking and other elements in real life, not in a simulator, but in real life in a way that we enable and train those elements. And again, finally, we have this ability of SecOps that I describe now into the platform. Then I will say that if an MSP want to enhance their capabilities in this space, I don't care if you don't know. Come to us, we will help you to transition to all the stages. And if you are very sophisticated, I invite you to have a conversation with our white hackers in the cyber range to see if you can break the model.
Wow.
Okay. That is our goal.
Yeah, I know. But that's fascinating to hear, first of all. And I think you're going to have some MSP's ears perk up at that one. But something you said there, I just want to pick up on, because I was only thinking about it today, and that's the certification path. And I'm sort of surprised that more businesses like TD SYNNEX don't offer that path where people can get qualified, certified as they go through. So big thumbs up from me. I've got to say, you have given us so much already to think about, so many opportunities, so many technologies there. So let's try and boil it down for our audience who perhaps might be feeling, well, where do I start? So where do you, Sergio, see the most significant opportunities for MSPs, let's just say in the next 2 to 3 years?
Yeah, the first thing that before I go there is that I want to say is probably what you see in my answers is that the platform is a critical element in our value proposition, but a platform don't address all the needs of an MSP.
Yeah.
Then something that we are very careful here is not define ourselves as a platform, because a platform don't answer all these questions. And we have been putting a stack of all these capabilities, enablement, financial, marketing, practice builder, platform, etc., because we really attack this problem in an integral way, in a way that the partner is capable then to succeed in those processes. We have a report that is the direction of technology, and in that report, in this, we have a section for MSPs, and in the past, 80% of the MSPs basically has been telling us that they are very focused in these high growth areas, in cloud, in security, and data AI. But I will probably go one step further. I think that the clear opportunities from the perspective of MSPs that are now very evident in the market are continue driving more in the security space. This is an area that won't stop and will continue growing. The second element is this concept of AI, but not AI as a busy word with a lot of noise. It's more in the context of specific use cases. Is this concept of the agents that are coming now from Microsoft, from Google, from IBM, and we have programs around all of them related to how you enable yourself to build these simplified agents addressing use case problems in your customer. Things that are as simple as create an agent that analyze the curriculums that you receive versus the people that you want to hire and give you automated answers of what are the three best candidates, or an agent that basically summarize expenses in your company and identify potential fraud in those areas. Is now more about how you, as a MSP, begin to drive this technology in real life actions that either bring operational efficiency or revenue to your customers. Then definitely security and AI from the perspective of this agent approach are two of the more clear opportunities from that perspective. And in addition to that, of course, again, infrastructure as a service is another area that is exploding. If you see the level of growth continue be significant, FinOps, SecOps are two areas where it's a huge opportunity for the MSP space.
Yeah, I find it really fascinating at the moment. It's exciting times that we live in because the world of managed services is changing, as we talked about, so much different opportunity. And having been in this industry for a long time now, I'm just flabbergasted to see, amazed to see where it's come from and where it's going and where it's going to go next. So the world of managed services, solutions, it's huge. It's only getting bigger and better. So I guess part of the TD SYNNEX role is, and I know you said that it's not just a marketplace, but that's an element of it here. The role from TD SYNNEX curating the best vendors to help MSPs go to market with them. So how do TD SYNNEX evaluate the vendors and solutions to make sure that they're well suited for the MSP market?
Yeah, and that is obviously an important element. And I think that we saw many things. We saw obviously the company that is behind in terms of their viability and operation capability. We analyze market trends and how this company fit in those trends in a way that are they basically one of the players of the future that will enable our MSPs to grow at the level that they need. Are they a disruptor? Are they a very well-established vendor? The other thing that we analyze either to accept or work with them is, are they in the proper maturity model to manage MSPs or partner? Because not all the companies are in that stage. They don't have necessarily the programs, the structure, the people, and you need to be careful because then you can create a buzz around something that then don't have the necessary support to deliver.
Yes.
We measure the impact that they can create from the perspective of value creation for the end user. And finally, we ensure that they have the proper practices in terms of alignment with our values, but at the same time with the security and service delivery that is required. Then once we complete those elements is usually when we really create those strategic alliances and then go to market in a significant way with them, or we support them in their growth when they accept that support to transition to a partner model structure.
Yeah, it's good to hear the due diligence that goes in there because you're effectively lending your name as well and the goodwill of TD Synnex and yourself to any relationship you take on. So that's good to hear. I've got to say, I was super excited about this interview coming in. So I've researched, and we've not spoken before, but I researched your work online. You're clearly, and this is obvious to anybody listening to this conversation, clearly a deep thinker when it comes to strategy, Sergio. So how do you keep your knowledge sharp?
Well, I am a workaholic for definition, right? But in addition to that, my career is IT. I am a system engineer, etc. Then I do this more by passion than necessarily by work. I think that it's very difficult that you really nurture with so much information. I have significant amount of information that come to me. I have significant interaction with analysts. I talk to the best vendors in the industry. I talk to the best partners in the industry. It's a lot of people that have so much knowledge to absorb. And it's very quickly for me to understand that I don't know anything yet when I talk to so many people that know so much. But again, what I try is to combine all that information and be very careful in where I focus. And I think that is as important to say yes that to say no, because it's too much noise in the market too. Then I think that is part of what helped me is I develop a system where I really try to put focus in few but relevant, impactful areas, and then go more in depth and be more generic in others that I think that are relevant, but still not necessarily those deep elements that I need to do. But I would say that passion is a critical factor on that. You need to like what you do.
Yeah, that passion shows through. And you've been making waves in this industry for a long time now, haven't you? So, what keeps you
I'm getting
engaged?
old.
You are experienced, my friends. That's what I would say. What keeps you engaged and excited with the world of IT? You said about keeping that passion. What fuels that passion nowadays?
Well, I as a person don't like to do the same all the time, and I think that technology is one of those few places where every second is different. Everything is changing. The next year is a new technology, is a new driver, is a new motion. Then I think that what make me so passionate about this segment is the change, is the fact that it's changing constantly. Then it's a challenge because you don't stay in the same topic all the time, and I get bored. Then the change for me is a way to motivate myself because challenge me constantly to learn new things, to do new things, to find ways to adapt to those changes, and that is something that works for me.
Yeah. Well, Sergio, we have covered a lot in a short period of time here. So thank you, my friend. I appreciate it. Thank you for the insights. What's the top action you would recommend any MSP who's listening to this, wherever they are in the world? What's the top action they should take after listening to our conversation?
Yeah, I will say that the biggest value that you can get as a company is your competencies. That is the only thing that nobody can take from you. Then I will say that I will encourage the MSPs to connect to our teams, to talk about Channel Academy, to talk about Practice Builder, to talk about the platform, to understand all this quantity of capabilities that we can help you to grow. The business will come after that, but it's more important that we have those conversations in a way that you decide where you want to play and you develop to be the best where you want to play. And I think that we can help in that direction in a significant way. I would recommend to really be passionate about how much competencies and capabilities you can acquire, and then how you translate that in an impactful way. Again, and I use these two elements because I believe that are the main drivers for successful business. You need to drive either operational excellence or drive revenue growth in your customer. That is the way that they will always be with you.
Well, let's give our listeners some ideas of how they can continue this conversation then. So if an MSP wanted to find out more about StreamOne, or perhaps if they're not a TD Synnex partner, they've never looked into it, what's the best way to them to get in touch and find out more?
Yeah, I will simplify saying that if you go to tdsynnex.com and you find the area where you have interest, we have links there to connect with us. In addition to that, if you go to tdsynnex.streamoneION.com, again, those areas or Stream One in general, you can go there and find more information. And LinkedIn is another great way to find a person that is close to you, that is in place that we can serve. Then please feel free to give us a call, and we will be there for you.
Wonderful. And we'll include all the details in the show notes that go along with this episode. So if you're listening to this episode while you're driving the car or out walking the dog, don't worry, we've got your back. Just go to tublog.co.uk and you can find all the information. But Sergio, I've got to ask, there's going to be lots of people listening to this, and perhaps it's the first time they've come across your work, and they're going to want to continue the conversation with you. I think you're going to have made a lot of new friends with this conversation, Sergio. So how can they find you online?
I would love to do that. I think that the easy way again is LinkedIn.
Yeah.
My name is Sergio Farache, and you will find me there in the CNX. Then please feel free, send me your request, and I will be happy to engage and continue the conversation. That is the easy way to do it.
Wonderful. Well, Sergio, this has been a real pleasure to speak to you. I feel like I could speak to you for double the amount of time just on some of the subjects that we talked about, but you're a busy man. I know you've got a lot going on. So thank you so much for taking time out your day to speak with me.
No, Richard, thank you so much. It has been a pleasure to have this conversation with you, and thank you to everybody that heard your podcast to support me for this period. I really appreciate it, and wish everybody the best.
Cheers.